Okay, welcome everybody. This is our bug user group meeting for November 1st, and we have this is our fourth in our fall 2022 series. And so we have one of our repeat guest speakers here. It's an honor to have RJ Palis here from AECOM. He's the digital technology manager there at AECOM. For those of you that have not been introduced to AECOM, it's a real honor to have him here. He's probably comes from one of the largest global construction, engineering, and design companies in the world. He'll talk more about that. And so it's a real treat to have him back. And he's going to be talking about creating digital dashboards as well as 3D PDFs. So I am going to just do a quick little introduction here. So my name is Christy. I'm the advisor of the bug group, and RJ, let's just, those of you that are leaders, maybe just introduce yourself. So let's start with Keith. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, RJ. My name is Keith with the Bloom User Group for probably almost a year now. Went to San Diego and networking. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he went to XCon. I don't know if you went to XCon or not, RJ.
Oh man, you guys can school me on these, Bluebeam techniques. So
yeah, you know what? You should try to go one year. It's really a great learning experience for sure.
I've been wanting to. So
Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself?
RJ, my name is Daniel Delgado. I'm a senior CM student and joined Bug over the winter.
Great, and glad to have you, Daniel. Karndeep, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Karndeep. I'm fairly new to Bug and I'm ready to learn more about Bluebeam Studio and the dashboard.
Great, thanks, Karndeep. And Karndeep and Keith actually did your Halloween flyer, so you probably
awesome.
got a giggle when it showed up on your email.
I sure did. Thank you guys. That was really cool.
Jaime, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, my name's Jaime. I'm a senior, hopefully graduating in December, and looking to learn a lot here today.
Great, glad to have you, Jaime. And Colton, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm a CM student. My name's Colton. Going to be graduating in spring. I'm excited to learn more about Bluebeam tonight. That's why I joined Bug. I did go to XCon too, learned a lot of good stuff there. So excited to hear what RJ's got to say. Hopefully I can pull some good stuff out tonight.
Great, good, Colton. So glad to have you. Jared, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name's Jared. I'm a senior CM student. I've been a bug leader for a few years now.
Great, and Jared went to XCon as well. We've got a couple master students and undergraduate students here, so let's go ahead and have them introduce themselves. So Ninad, why don't you introduce yourself? And you met RJ the last time. You guys were talking about virtual reality, so
yeah, that is
yeah,
correct.
go ahead, reintroduce yourself to him.
Yeah, hello, my name is Ninad. I'm doing a master's here. I'm currently in my second semester, and I'm doing a master's in construction management. I'm also doing some research on virtual reality and also the augmented reality.
Great,
HoloLens. Yeah.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Ninad. I think I met most of the folks here from May. I think if you guys were here on the call, I think I remember Jared and maybe Daniel.
Yes, a few of you, yeah. Yeah, there's a few new ones, I think, too. So Sid, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, RJ. This is Siddharth. I am a master's student, and this is my first bug meeting I'm attending to. So I'm looking forward to learn a lot from you.
Thank you.
Great, good to have you, Sid. Cynthia, why don't you introduce yourself? You must be at school.
Yes, I'm in the library. My name is Cynthia Santiago Vizcarra. I'm doing a CM major, and this is my senior year, I believe.
Oh, great, Cynthia. Glad to have you. And you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Hopefully, I learned a lot tonight, and I'm happy for you to be here too, RJ. I'm also a senior.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to RJ. RJ, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then those of you that have Bluebeam, while we're waiting, doing the transition here, if you open up your chat, Daniel Delgado here will put in the link to the studio session. If you have Bluebeam and you're able, go ahead and log into that studio session. You'll have a little bit of time while he's introducing himself, but take some time. If you can get in there, that's going to help facilitate a lot of learning tonight. So let me turn it over to RJ, and RJ, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, I think you might have gotten a promotion. You'll have to tell us about that.
So yeah, my name is RJ Palis. This is my, I believe, Christy, my third appearance or speaking engagement, however you want to call it, with the bug group. So I appreciate Christy inviting me back to speak, to choose a topic. So I really enjoyed this time with everybody. I feel like I always come out learning something from everybody after these talks. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys as well. So a little bit of background about myself. I graduated Cal State Los Angeles with an electrical engineering background. I am a licensed electrical engineer here in California, in particular with electrical engineer for building constructions. So that's essentially my background. I spent about 12 years doing that, and then I jumped into construction not too long ago, maybe I want to say within 5 years. And when Christy first invited me, I was working for a general contractor named Bernard's. They are local to Los Angeles, to Southern California. And then I actually started AECOM Hunt less than, I want to say 7 months ago. So I haven't been with AECOM for that long either. So only 7 months. And when I spoke back in May, I've only been with AECOM for about 2 months. So I'm super new to AECOM. There's probably a lot of things that I'm assigned on. I'm working on the Intuit Dome project. Hopefully you guys can hear me, right?
You're muted, Christy.
You guys can hear me well, okay?
Yes.
Is that okay? Good. Yeah, so I am assigned to the Intuit Dome project. It is the new home of the Clippers basketball team, for those who are basketball fans out there. It is due to open in the 2024 season. It's an 18,000 seat arena located in Inglewood, sort of catty corner with the SoFi Stadium. If you guys remember, I think it was somebody from Turner.
Yes, Michael Devonshire.
A few months ago. It was like Michael's corner over SoFi is. It's smaller. I think SoFi Stadium is about a $6 billion project. The Intuit Dome is about a $2 to $3 billion project. So it's not as big, but it's just as challenging. On that project, AECOM is that it's a joint venture with Turner, similar with SoFi, except in this project, AECOM is the primary general contractor and joined with Turner. And just as oh, that's right, there you go, Michael Devonshire of Turner, that's right. So my role here in this project, I am we called it a BIM or VDC manager, but our director here in the West Coast is sort of rebranding our department and calling ourselves as digital technologists, because that's what we provide in these projects is digital technology. We are, in a way, subject matter experts on anything digital technology that's being introduced in the project for current or future projects. So it's not a promotion, Christy. It was just a title change, sort of a rebranding for the department. I think the main goal of what our director is trying to accomplish is that we're not just BIM, we're not just VDC, but we're anything. We are, in a way, subject matter experts for anything digital that gets introduced to the project. And because of that, Bluebeam is part of that digital revolution. BIM, obviously, and any other sort of construction management platform or software that some of you guys are probably aware of. So for this, we have maybe an hour and a half on this meeting. I'd want to just kind of keep it casual, organic between us. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt, raise your hand, ask the question. And I don't have a set, I don't have slides. I don't like slides. I don't have anything that I want to kind of keep this interactive with all of us. So that way you guys don't get bored. So hopefully we can kind of talk to each other like we're all there in the room together. So
and
that,
RJ, maybe too, you could just take a little bit of time to just talk a little bit more about AECOM, and how, before you get into the Bluebeam stuff, just tell us a little bit more about AECOM. I think one of the things that I've been telling the students is that our programs really kind of go on a very narrow track in general contracting versus going out and looking at all the other opportunities that you can do. And one of the things that I picked up on, and I know Nanad is kind of focusing on virtual reality, and some of the rest of you that are leaders in Bluebeam, the digital technology area is just a great opportunity at a variety of companies to focus in on if you're interested in it. So if you could tell us a little bit about kind of that path, as well as a little bit more about maybe some of the opportunities in AECOM before we get into the Bluebeam part, that would be great.
Let me know if you guys see my screen.
Yes, it's showing up. Yeah.
AECOM, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, aecom.com, you can log on to their website. But I think what a lot of what you don't see if you're not working for a company is how much of a reach AECOM does, right? So if you go into our work here, you can actually see that they are an AEC and then also an owner type of company. They provide services all the way from design all the way down to program management. And if you go into construction management, you'll see here, this construction management portion is run by two big firms, which were acquired by AECOM. One is Tishman. And you guys probably know Tishman because they built some pretty iconic projects. You see One World Trade Center is something that they were on. There's also a new project that's being run by them called 84 Park East. I don't know if you guys seen this project, but it's pretty spectacular. It's also in New York, and then the other arm of AECOM Construction Management is Hunt Construction Group. Now, Hunt actually does a lot of sports arenas, convention centers. There's a couple of notable projects here: Amway Center, Barclays Center. So a lot of things that you would think of as sports arenas, and that's why I think that's why they got chosen to be part of the SoFi Stadium and here on the Intuit Dome project. Now that's just the construction side of things. Now, if you go into architecture and design, and this is what AECOM is known for, is just the vast array of projects that they work on. It could be vertical buildings, it could be utilities, transportations. I mean, you think of anything that we're building, you know, AECOM probably had something to do with you know, some of these very notable projects that we know of. It is a global company, but it sort of gets, to me, going into a global company, it's very overwhelming because you seem like you're part of a bigger entity. But fortunately, because of our team here in the West Coast, you kind of find your niche and your group and your team, and you do feel a little bit more at home when you see yourself as part of a team that cares about you. So I don't know what else I can say without, I guess, you know, what doesn't show in the website here, but I do suggest for those that are interested working for big companies, that you guys always, you know, I see a career website when a certain position opens up, that you get alert management is sort of a broad field. But I think as you hear more and more from different professionals in this field, that you kind of get an idea what you guys want to do, and what you guys want to search for as you guys move on from, or when you guys graduate from college.
And
I just
RJ, this is meant to be kind of like a broad question, but it's going to sound personal. Like, how did you get connected to AECOM? Did you through word of mouth get the job that you're in, or did you get hired through LinkedIn or recruiter, or how did you break into a larger company like this?
I think just the accumulation of experience, I think. But there was a lot of which job fits what you think, where your experience can be of value to a company. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with luck as well. I think at this time of the economy, BIM management in the general contractor side is a highly specialized area, in so much that there's not a lot of BIM folks in the general contracting side. And so I think there was limited, I want to say, there wasn't as many competition as you would think when you think of BIM managers in general contracting. There's a lot of different types of BIM manager if you're in the architectural and design side, but as far as someone that has the experience of MEP coordination, like I do have, you know, some experience with it, clash coordination, those are the ones that specific to this position I applied for. Those were the skills that they were looking for. So anything that has to do with clash coordination, that's sort of the skill set they were looking for. And I just happened to be applying for that position too. So
great, RJ. And so, like, for example, like the leaders in the group, or the people that are coming to this group that are learning more about Bluebeam, or we're just starting a pilot program for Oracle P6 cloud, Primavera Cloud. So learning those kinds of software, how do you think that impacts, you know, a college student going out into the industry?
I think it impacts that's a great impact on I think they should be, you know, students should be learning P6 or anything has to do with construction management software. If there was, you know, something to do with Procore or Autodesk, I mean, those are construction management software, but I believe, you know, P6 is part of what we do, what we should know about in construction management. So I think it's a great skill to learn. I myself have limited knowledge of P6. I know how to read Gantt charts, but if you're going to ask me to create a critical path for an activity, I'm not going to be able to make you that. So, but
That's not your specialty.
That's not my specialty.
But the technology, the knowledge about certain big software platforms like this is it sounds like it's very valuable out in the industry, especially I would say working for companies like AUCOM or Fluor or Bechtel or Jacobs or any of these large global construction companies, because they're going to be a large, they're on such a vast scale that having that knowledge is so helpful.
Yeah.
And Ninad asked a question, how do you, or you might not know the exact answer for this, but he says, how do we apply for BIM internship positions at AECOM, or if you're in a, interested in a particular technology?
Actually, it's funny, if you type in BIM intern on LinkedIn, there's programs, especially in summer, around summertime. There's a lot of companies there that have BIM internships, and this could be maybe not for construction. It could be for design, and that's where a lot of BIM internships start, is in design firms. And let me tell you why. A lot of the software that is used in BIM, and BIM is not a software itself, it's sort of a process, right? Building information modeling. So BIM in a way starts at the software that we use, and it could be Revit, it could be AutoCAD, it could be Navisworks, and a lot of that sort of you get a lot of exposure to that in the design side. A lot of my experience came from the design, and so I had those software backgrounds. And I think in BIM internships, you do get exposure to those software. I did want to speak about where I came from before AECOM, and I started at Bernard's. Bernard's has a really good internship program. They also have a good BIM internship program, because when I started there, I was sort of helping our director sort of build up our project engineers who might not necessarily wanted to get into BIM, but they want, that's something that we want to equip them with, so they're aware of what BIM can do, or VDC, which is virtual design construction. That way they can, if they decide to go away from BIM and they want to be project engineers who become project managers, they are aware of what BIM can do for their projects. And that can be, they're actually our greatest advocate when it comes out in the field, because they know what BIM can do for their projects. So they would be the ones sort of helping us spread the knowledge about how BIM can mitigate risk, how it can cut costs and all that stuff. So.
And RJ, what's your opinion on LinkedIn and its impact on the industry, and for college students to get involved in LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn to me changed so much from when I started using it years ago. I think more of a professional network. So if you do want to connect with other professionals, you have to invest in some time creating a very solid LinkedIn profile. And I think if you guys are familiar with LinkedIn, as you build your profile, there's that little gauge that shows you like how well you've created your profile. So I try to make mine so it's close to like 70%. So at least, because that shows you how strong your profile, or how it can capture someone's attention, especially for recruiters or just anybody that's sort of looking for someone there. So I think it's very valuable to spend some time to really craft that profile so it looks a lot like your resume. If anything, my LinkedIn profile, if you guys add me, it is basically set up like a resume. So if there's any recruiters looking at my profile, they can see a very thorough they can see it very thoroughly as far as my experience and my knowledge. So
Great, RJ. And how many of you, by raising your hand, have a LinkedIn profile here, a student profile? We got Ninad there, Jerry, Daniel, good. So a few of you do. You does, good. Okay, so a few of you don't. So that is one thing that I would say, put it high on your priority list, that you develop a LinkedIn profile there, so that you can see these things. And like you said, if you search for BIM tech, BIM tech or BIM internships or any other digital type internships that you're interested in, that could be a possibility. Any other questions for RJ about AECOM or just looking for jobs in the industry, et cetera?
in general, yeah.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, I got a question for RJ. So so when you learn about software, right, what kind of resources do you use to, like, learn software?
I graduated from YouTube University, so
The YouTube, okay.
so let me put some context behind that. I started to use AutoCAD back in 2004. So I mean, from there it progressed from using AutoCAD to Revit, and I did have to learn a lot of these on the job, which is tough because in schools, they don't, at least when I went to school, and the emphasis of that school, they weren't teaching you how to draft, how to create drawings. It's all theoretical, right? I think a lot of that has changed, and I'm glad that there are courses like in construction management where they focus more on some softwares. But back when I was going to school, those were not an option. I had to learn everything on the job. Fortunately, it's a little bit different now. There's a lot of resources now. There's YouTube, there's Google, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's anything and everything. I mean, if you guys need resources of how to start up using Revit or Navisworks, I can send you guys information on YouTube. Influencers, I guess, if you want to call it that, BIMfluencers, I call it. That can kind of point you guys to the right direction as far as to look for. Does that answer your question, Pete?
Yep. Thank you.
And I will add and say that you're exactly right, RJ, that I know I come more from the Oracle side of things, on the scheduling side, and companies will send you to these internships, these training programs, and they would have them for BIM or AutoCAD, and they're thousands of dollars to go to their training sessions. But the best way to learn is by trial and error, and a lot of times it's on the job. So I know I have, as you guys know, certain knowledge of certain software. Sometimes I have to do the Google thing too, like RJ said, or go in there, and sometimes there's, even in LinkedIn, there's groups for different, there might be BIM groups or whatever, and you can post questions in there, and people start seeing your name posting these questions on LinkedIn, and so they get to know you that way. So I encourage you, if you're kind of hesitant to do the whole social media thing, LinkedIn's probably one of the best ones to get involved in, and be able to advance your career by getting involved in it. So I would encourage that.
I'm actually surprised by, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm really encouraged by the generation coming out of school now, because a lot of the younger folks, they have a go get them sort of attitude. If they want to learn something, they have all the resources. And a few of my interns that came through the Bernard's program, we gave them a little bit of structure, and then from that structure, they were able to learn a lot of things on their own via the internet. So there's a lot of opportunities for anybody to just go and look for resources. And I think that's what I've seen with the younger generation is that they are willing. They are, especially if that's something they like, they go for it. So.
Great, RJ. And Ninad, you had your hand up. Was that from before?
No, actually, I wanted to say something. So,
Okay.
as Arja said, like LinkedIn Learning is a very effective tool that we can use. I'm actually learning a software called Dynamo right now through LinkedIn Learning. And the LinkedIn Learning is actually paid, but for Fresno State students, it can be available for free if you have the Fresno County Library card. So I urge all the students to get a Fresno County Library card. It's free. And with that, you can access all the courses on LinkedIn Learning.
I wonder if professors can do that too.
Yeah, professors can do that. I guess so. Professors can do that too. I'm not sure about that.
I leave Dynamo to the smart ones, but Dynamo is something that you know it runs behind like the Revit platform, and it offers a lot of opportunity to make design more efficient. There's programming there. There's things that actually, if you know, and Ninad sounds like a smart dude here, so he's probably part of you know, the Autodesk Forge platform, but a lot of the Autodesk program runs behind this Forge platform that has a lot of programming involved. But the main goal of that is it gives developers the ability to customize the workflow in ways that was never available for a lot of folks before. And I think that's great for Autodesk to give that option for people to make things their workflow more efficient using these developer resources.
Great. So why don't we go ahead and transition? I wanted to, before I forget, I wanted to mention this, RJ. Ninad and not Ninad, Daniel and Pete, and I think it was just Daniel and Pete, developed a bug dashboard for our bug user group. So at the very end, we'll have to show you our simple little bug dashboard at the end. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
I can't. Yeah.
RJ, I have another question.
Sure.
Just a general one. So for were you involved in the what's it called, the SoFi Stadium?
I was not.
Okay, so for the Intuit dorm, right? So it's just for the competition team. My question is, typically for a job from like, say, in a range of like 100 to like $50 million, how long do you think the BIM manager is going to be on that job?
So if you think of us just as BIM and in there for clash coordination, we should be in and out of that project before they even dig the hole up, you know, on a project. But what I think matters to us most is that BIM is part of the digital technology evolution, that there should be a BIM manager on that project all the way from conception down to handover to the owner. And let me tell you why. After BIM coordination, after clash coordination, and you kind of work out all those issues, we still have the digital technology being used by the team, whether that's Autodesk 360, Procore. There's a lot of digital data still being transferred from point A to point B. We as digital technology managers or BIM managers are sort of in the forefront of that information flow. You know, we are still in charge of how do we get the models conditioned, that way the end user, whether that be the field folks and superintendent or the owners, how do we get that information to the field, into their hands? So in a way, our job is not complete just because we say, hey, you know what, per coordination, we're clash free. We worked out all those issues. I think our role should be from the beginning all the way to the end. And that's sort of the forward thinking mentality that my director has. And in essence, in our industry, BIM guys like myself or BIM girls also, they just see us as someone that do clash detection, you know, and that's all they see us as is, okay, clash detection, that this hits here, you guys help coordinate that, but then that's it. After that part is done, they kind of say, oh, you know what, we probably don't need you for the rest of the time. Oftentimes, as a big picture, you actually see that that model still needs to get tended by somebody all the way down to the end of the project. Because let's say that the project, the owner required some sort of as-built or a model that they would need for asset management or for operations. Well, somebody has to fix that. Well, what if you took the BIM guy out and he's on another project, right? Now, who's going to be doing that role? So it's not just BIM clash coordination. I think it goes all the way down to 6D. I don't know if you guys learn about 6D and 5D in your classes, but that's something that is also part of the digital technology.
And
So
you
even
might
for
tell
like
them,
design bit build,
What's that?
even for like design bit build, because it sounded to me like you were saying like design build, right? For design build.
It could be design build, it could be design bid build. Honestly, I think the need for a digital technology manager is always needed from all the way to the end. Just somebody that will be able to be the subject expert on anything to do with that digital model.
So how many people are on a job, like BIM or VDC manager are on the job right now?
I am the only one on a 2
Oh
billion.
wow!
So we have more help. There's engineers, senior engineers, junior engineers working. Well, when I first started, it was sort of a bare bone crew. It was just myself. But for a project that big, there are a lot of information coming in. I mean, I'll show you guys some data later on as far as how, the management of that project. We could probably do that then. How many files do we manage? How many hours it takes to kind of condition the model to where it's usable for the entire team. So,
okay, thank you.
and RJ, why don't you tell them the difference between like 3D, 4D, 5D, and you said, I think 6D.
Sure. 3D, you guys know 3D, you know, it's the 3D model where you guys see in softwares, you can view it. 4D is when you add the element of time, and you can, you know, with programs like Synpro, if you guys are familiar with that, that adds in the time element in the model. Here you can actually sequence the model to match your P6 schedule, right? And that's 4D. That's a useful tool, especially early in the development of a project where you need to phase out or sequence your work. You want to see how that looks like in the 3D model. 5D, I'm trying to remember what 5D was. 5D has to do with, I remember either some sort of
estimating.
It has the takeoff aspect to it. So that's more in the quantity takeoff, a model-based quantity takeoff, where you are using the 3D model to create your takeoffs. In Bluebeam, you can do takeoffs, right? You guys, if you guys are not familiar, you can create your takeoffs for how big the square footage of floors, how many windows, things of that nature. Here in 5D, you're able to create a takeoff using the 3D model itself. And actually, that's something that I wanted to show you guys with a 3D PDF later on, which is going to be sort of cool, hopefully. And then 6D, it's actually, I think this is where the industry is a little bit behind, because 6D, it puts in the asset management into the 3D model. So that way operations can look at a 3D model, they can click on an equipment, let's say a pump, and they can see all the information that operations need as a history, or sort of a log of what that information that belongs to that equipment. It will have the service logs, maintenance logs, when it was installed, when it was serviced, what kind of model it is. That information lives in the model for the end user to take a look at.
And RJ, I'm just gonna make a comment here. Those of you, that are interested in this kind of thing, the more digital VDC, virtual reality, all these things. The smaller, medium-sized companies are not gonna have the funds to, have that kind of technology on their job. They'll just be real honest with you. So the larger global companies are going to have a lot of money for these kinds of things. So if you're really interested in this is something to really consider when you're going out and getting internships. Like Bernard's, they're a little bit bigger company. They might have spent more money on that, but it's still, it takes a lot of money to run these kinds of programs.
I do want to encourage everybody here is that, like I said in the beginning, for you should acquire the knowledge enough to be dangerous, so that way you are aware that those options are there. I know there are some interns that I met or mentored where they were introducing technology from what they learned in their programs to our workflow, and that sort of became a relationship where we learned something from the internship based on what they've seen. And so I think, regardless of where you end up going, I think having that knowledge of what construction technology is out there is very beneficial, especially if it's a small or medium-sized company that are not aware. Because here's what's going to happen: you find a company that are still using physical drawings. They're not digitized yet. Let's say you go there and say, hey, you know what? Here's Bluebeam. You can digitize your whole construction set. I mean, that brought in value in their team. Even though Bluebeam has been around for a long time, they didn't know about it. But you bringing it to their attention now has become a game changer for their industry. So, and that's just an example of what you can bring in to a company that's, maybe it's not as big as AECOM, but somebody that could still benefit from the knowledge that you bring in. Just because you guys are coming out of college doesn't mean that you guys don't know anything. In fact, I think a lot of the kids coming out of college now, they know a lot more construction technology than they think. So, any other questions? Oh, come on.
Yeah, I think we're, yeah.
What do you think is like the most important Bluebeam skill out of anything?
Marking up with a set of standards. Sometimes I feel like marking up, if you don't have a guideline, it's the wild west. Everybody's going to be using their own font, their line weight. But I think if you have a good grasp of what marking up does, you can influence people by setting a set of standards, right? Like, let's say if you're a designer, use this color, use this font. But it only would come from an expert that knows what marking up tool is capable of.
I like it.
Nice.
I have one more question. So it's more of like, since I'm an international student, that's why I have this concern that does AECOM hire international employees, and do they sponsor international students?
Yes.
That's good to hear.
I'm not the expert on that, but a few of my engineers, two of my engineers are graduate students that are also in the international program or visa.
And I think I mentioned this before, Ninad, that I think the global construction companies or global, design AEC type companies are going to be more inclined, not to say that general contractors won't, but I would say these international companies are more inclined to do it and sponsor you than some of the US GCs. I don't know, did Barnard's, do you know, RJ?
They do it as well.
Okay, so Bernard, you might, look into Bernard's as well.
Yeah, they are going to be here on November 8th at our university.
Say hi, tell Bill Hicks, he's the he's the HR recruiter that you know me. Hopefully he can and I approve of Ninad.
Yeah, sure. I'll let him know.
For anybody. And I think one of your students, Christy, I forget her name, but she was one of the leaders from a couple of semesters, but I think she's also with Bernard's now.
Liza?
Liza,
Probably
that's right.
Liza. Yes, Liza. Yes.
I don't know if she's still there, but I remember seeing her name before I left Bernard's. So.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she's working in LA, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Bernard still?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Uh-huh.
I should get her in
So,
here.
yeah. Do you want everybody to get into the studio session that you set up?
Let me go back into the dash. Let me go through the dashboards real quick, just for those
Okay.
that are not familiar what dashboards are, and maybe Christy and anybody here can kind of lend me a hand if I say something wrong or inaccurate. So let me.
Daniel and Peter are
I know.
gurus.
I feel underskilled all of a sudden. So let's see how this
Oh
works.
no.
All right, just for those the ones that are not too familiar with dashboards, but in previous talks that I had with the bug team, I had one here specifically set up for when I was working with Bernard's. I was handling 3 projects, and so navigating the folder system on Ignite, at that time we were using Ignite, we had to click through multiple folders to get to where we need to be. And what the dashboard offered is that it provided a quick tool for us to jump around folders without we were basically eliminating the number of clicks on our mouse to get to where we need to go. And that's what and maybe Daniel and Keith, you guys will show us what you guys done with Bug. But what I wanted to show you is sort of live here how easy it is to create a digital dashboard with these hyperlinks, right? So I'll start here. And right now, I did this during our last session too, is I created a dashboard just from the flyer that you guys made. And so one thing that I would suggest is that if you are creating it from scratch, your dashboard, you can use a lot of different options to create your dashboard. It could be Excel, it could be PowerPoint, it could be Illustrator. And I don't know, Keith and Daniel, what you guys did to create this graphic, but what I'll do is I'll start creating hyperlinks. And who here knows what hyperlinks are, just by show of hands? All right. I figure a lot of you young guys know what hyperlinks are. So what's cool about hyperlinks is it's essentially the backbone of what digital dashboards are made out of. And what it does is that once you create a hyperlink, it'll take you to where you can direct it to go wherever you want it to go. So what I'll do is right here with introduction to AECOM, this might be super simplistic for some of you, so I apologize. But what I'll do is I'll create a, you see the hyperlink tool here, which is the chain link. What I'll do is I'll create a box around introduction to AECOM. There. And under hyperlink, I'm gonna direct it to go to aecom.com. I don't know if that's gonna work or if it needs the HTTP. Let's take a look. So now you'll see that an item is now a hyperlink once you see that blue box there, right? So what happens is that once you hover over it, imagine there's that transparent rectangular box over this headline. And what it'll do is that once you click it, it'll take you theoretically to the A ComSec. And there it is. And I forget the trick that will actually open up a new window for that. Right. So that's one way to hyperlink outside to an external website. You can also go back to right click on this, go back to properties. And you can also change it to, you'll see the action right here on the hyperlink properties. You can edit it and it'll bring up this window. And another cool thing is that you can even direct it to open to a local folder, right? So in this case, you can dump it to any of the folder you want. And what happens is once you hit OK, I'm not going to do it now, but when you click on the link, it's going to create, it's going to open the location in a folder.
Hey,
Similarly,
RJ,
you can create your add a different. Yep.
Can you go back and just say that last thing when you had opened, the internet kind of cut out?
Sure. Let me go back. So you can similarly, you can also open to a folder location. So under hyperlink properties, click on edit. Click on open, and you can select the folder to where you want to open it. And this will, this link, this hyperlink will open that folder for you. So what if you wanted to create something from scratch, right? So I'll create a new one. And this is how similarly, what I've done in other jobs is that if I'm working on 3 projects, I'm just gonna take some snapshots from random internet Google searches here. And this is super fun for me to create from scratch too, because you can in my internet. Let's see. Basilica, Italy. Let's see what happens here. All right. So what I'll do is I'll capture a couple of snapshots here. Copy like in Rome here. Let's work on the Tower of Pisa. We're on the Italy themed construction. And I'll only use 2 examples for the sake of. So what I've done in the past is I'll create a dashboard like this, especially if I'm working on multiple projects. And then I would set it up. And you guys are probably going to cringe when you see how I fix my items here. So forgive me. So I'll end up create my, this is sort of, think of it as your buttons. I'm creating my buttons here for my project. And this is where you can kind of get creative on how I'm an engineer. I'm not creative. I'm more functional, if anything. So from here, depending on what you want to direct your hyperlinks to go, I would have, I should have done a text box instead, you know, I'll go with Basilica. Oops. Oh, let's do it this way. It's probably better. documents. And then I'll do another one here. Project drawings. And from here, once you kind of create it to however you want to make it look like, you can start creating your hyperlinks. So in this case, I'm not going to a website where I'm actually going to a, if you right click, actually create a hyperlink. There you go. And create a box around that button. You can open it to, let's say, any folder structure. I know in some companies, they work out of OneDrive or Procore or Ignite. This is where you can see the power of creating dashboard in the way that you're able to actually open up a folder, which in this case, so here, just as a sample, I'm creating a link to my OneDrive folder. That takes you straight to that document or to that folder. So in this case, it shows you, it directs you to a report in this case. So now as a project engineer or however you guys see yourself in your role, what the digital dashboard does is it creates pretty much just shortcuts for your project. That way you're not navigating through layers and layers of folders, right? In a project, you could get down to 8 folders deep before you get to the actual document that you want. In this case, think of it as your iPhone, right? You don't have folders on your iPhone. You have quick links to the apps that you want to get to. And that's what the digital dashboard offers you as the one creating it, is a way for you to just jump straight to the document using these shortcuts. Does that, you guys have any questions on that? No, it's been kind of crude.
So RJ, this isn't a question, but so for example, you guys, we've seen this at XCon, and some of you have gone, some of you haven't gone. A lot of companies, say RJ's Intuit project, they might have a digital dashboard for that project and put all their project documents on there, create a hyperlink for all their RFIs, create a link for all their schedules, create a link for all their as-builts. And so basically when you create these hot buttons, it will hyperlink out to those files. And so it's almost like a document control hub or communication hub for a project. And so, it's really cool, actually. And a lot of, I would say, project engineers that end up going out into the industry that are Bluebeam, proficient, are put into positions where they actually have to create the digital dashboard for the project. And I don't know if you've seen that too, RJ, but I know I've seen it quite a bit.
There was something that the project engineers are encouraged to do because the server, not the server, but the construction, the common data environment, I'm going to call it that, or CDE for short, is what we refer to as something like Autodesk BIM 360, where it's a repository of data. That's, or you can have the same thing with the studio projects, right? You can have your PDFs live under the cloud. That's the opportunity for us to use dashboard to quickly jump into these in these folders real quick without navigating through the different layers of folders. Cool. Any questions? Any thoughts?
So
yeah,
for hyperlink,
Mhm.
Once you hyperlink, the option to open a document, is it just only for your use? If not, if your company has a I guess a data center, then you can do that. If not, it doesn't work if I don't have that, file.
Yeah.
Is that
So what?
correct?
Yeah. So what happens is that the project engineers would actually store this file into the project common data environment, and anybody that needs access to it, they need to go to that folder and then click open up that PDF file where this dashboard contains. What I've actually forgot to mention here is I found somewhere online that actually tells you how to program Windows. So when you start it up, it opens up that PDF dashboard upon startup. So that's also a useful skill that I found, where once I turn on my computer, I don't have to navigate to find where that digital dashboard is or click on the desktop, but it actually opens it up automatically when I boot up the computer. So that's probably something you guys can Google search on how to do that, but it's fairly simple. Even I can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So. Any other questions, comment? So I want to kind of just tie this into the 3D PDF and the markup tool today too. So if there's no more questions about this, I want to quickly transition to the 3D PDF, which is, to me, I think it sort of resonates a lot with me because of the BIM background, and I think it's probably underutilized feature in Bluebeam, but I hope that I can kind of inspire some of you guys to use 3D PDFs in your workflow. So for that, I think we'll ask everybody to go into the Bluebeam session if you're not already there. I'm just going to close all this. So for those who are not familiar with Bluebeam session, it is a platform where it lets you upload files in a common environment, and anybody that is on that session can create markups, review them. Specifically, it is useful for design reviews, where instead of emailing different team members, hey, let's change something on this design, take a snippet, take a snapshot of your markup, send it to them, and you get that email back and forth between each other. What the Bluebeam session does is it uses one drawing where you have these markups, and you're able to communicate changes with anybody on that environment. So from here, just flyer, just so that for those who are not aware or know what it's capable of, you can see the live changes or the live markups that Bluebeam session is capable of. So here, for those that are here, I'm just gonna quickly just do some markups here, and you guys can see live like the different markups that people are creating on this platform. So you guys, or a couple of you guys, just do quick markups there, and you can see the live change happening. There you go. You see somebody circled the bat there. Maybe add some text. So where this is actually useful is during construction reviews and design reviews, where you have multiple number of team members that need to look at one set of drawings, but you have different people that are looking for different things. And so what this does is, if you have one sheet of drawing paper, let's say an architectural floor plan, everybody that is invited on that session can make their markups available to where they can make their comments, whether those are engineers, architects, or contractors. They can create a markup to alert a different person that, hey, this door needs to shift, this window needs to be deleted. All that would be transparent and would be seen during a live markup session. Well, now I'm kind of jumping over topics here because I did want to lead up to the 3D model. I'll actually put it up there. So a 3D PDF, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So on any project that is being built nowadays, a lot of the models are actually obtained from Revit 3D. It's actually very easy. And I wanted to just show you guys this. So, you guys don't have to know Revit, but you guys do have to know that it is capable of producing 3D PDFs that you can use in Bluebeam, right? So if you're in a project and there's a BIM engineer or a BIM manager on that project, and let's say, hey, I don't know Revit, but I know 3D PDF from Bluebeam. Can you help me produce a 3D PDF? And what's cool about this is that on the Revit platform, you'll see that on the add-ins here, there's an option for a Bluebeam for a 3D PDF, right? Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So here is just a sample building from Revit. It's an architectural model. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to put this in our Bluebeam session. So what I did was I went ahead and create a 3D PDF. I saved it to a file somewhere. And then what it does is it'll convert this 3D model to a 3D PDF format. And that's what we have here on our Bluebeam session. Requires a little bit of a time, because if you're not used to navigating modeling software, you can get used to it. But what you can see here on this navigation toolbar are different options on this drop down, and just by your head. Has anyone played see its option? And I'm glad that maybe I'm able to kind of show you guys this option. But here on this drop down, this shows you different sort of views created from Revit and gets imported to Bluebeam. These are the different navigation options. So here is the one I use, is spin. And this actually is pretty easy. If you left click and hold, you can move around the model like so. Okay. Over here, you can set the rendering to look certain ways depending on the scene. Pretty cool. But that's not the cool stuff yet. The cool stuff is you can actually start creating sections out of this 3D PDF. You guys see this outline of a cube, right?
Yes.
You click on that cube right on the red borderline, you'll see these arrows, this push and pull arrows. What it does is that once you push in, it actually cuts a section of that model. Right. Then you hit escape. Then you can start looking at it inside. Now, if you want to cut another section of it, click on that red outline and then push and pull this arrow. Now you can kind of see what else what other section of that house looks like. You know what? That's not the cool part, actually. If you
I
think
was
that's
gonna
the
say
cool,
that's pretty cool, RJ.
the cool part here is that you can actually mark up in this view. So now you've to Navisworks, but here is someone who, let's say a lot of owners, a lot of end users, they don't have Navisworks, they don't have Autodesk product, but I want to tell you that most of them probably have Bluebeam. And here offers another option for those that don't have Navisworks or Autodesk to look at a 3D model. And for you to introduce this to a project, this adds value for them, right? It's something that they can definitely use without costing them another set of software. So here, what you can do on 2D markups, you can also do in 3D markups as well. So let's say I'm reviewing this with an owner and I say, hey, you know what? We need more laundry unit. We need more washer and dryers. You can do the same thing here. You can mark it up and add your comment. Need more washers. And what this does is it creates a flat 2D image. And when you escape out of that view, you'll see on your drop down here, it actually created a different view of it. In this case, it looks like I made a viewpoint of that. If I click on this, it'll take me straight to that issue. Need more washers. Now let's take a look at some of you guys are already marking this up. So let's look at what Daniel Delgado put. You'll see the big blue orb. Let's click on it and see what he says. Actually, it's mine. So, but that's sort of the options that you can create on Vertiv, because you can review it with different people. I see a little bit of lag on the video.
Yeah, it eventually catches up, RJ.
Mhm.
I do have a question. So the 3D model, you're not doing that in Bluebeam. You've done it like in Revit or something else and brought it in, right?
Correct. And that's
Okay.
something that is, you get that from the design team. You know,
I see.
so we don't
But
we
in
don't grade.
Bluebeam, but Bluebeam marks it up as if it was like an Adobe file or,
Correct.
anything like that.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And what's actually another, if you thought that was cool, this actually is a very useful tool it's not utilized as much as I hope for on these projects, but I think you guys have the ability to change that, especially if you are already aware of this feature. But the cool thing about a 3D model is that a 3D model, BIM, when you think of BIM, is building information model, right? So these are not just dumb lines. They actually contain information. So if you click on this washer unit, you'll see here on the right, everything that came from the Revit model are now pushed into Bluebeam. Right.
So RJ, Revit is compatible with Bluebeam? It imports all the information?
It uses a 3D PDF, which the format is under IFC format, which is a globally used format for 3D models, and Bluebeam is capable of reading that format and exporting that information out to Bluebeam.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So here, all these values come from Revit, all these, smart values. And that's why the I in BIM is very important, because this is the information that you can use for your P6 schedules, right? Let's say you're creating an activity for when you pour out concrete floors. Now you can tie in this model to your P6 schedule, because now you can tag an activity ID for this floor, right? These are the information that is used in 4D. How you can connect for the 3D model with your schedule. Let's see here.
And I wonder, I'm just thinking about this. I'm wondering if you can create like a dual tile and actually pull in your schedule. You know, like pull in your P6 schedule. If you were to have a schedule for this little building and where you go through the floors, you know, in the schedule data, it would actually, can you connect it to P6 or not?
It's actually, that's where the Dynamo kicks in with that Nilad talks about.
Okay.
So Dynamo, you can actually connect a lot of information from an Excel version of the P6 and tie it in to the 3D model on Revit.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of integration just by knowing Dynamo. You can basically what I want to tell everyone here is that any data that you can extract can be manipulated to a way that it integrates with another software, especially if it can be exported to an Excel format. You can tie it into basically anything that would be able to read an Excel format. So in this case, what I'll show you next is how to export an Excel file that show you the quantity takeoff. Out of this 3D PDF, which I thought was pretty cool. Have you guys ever done that before? Or
Done quantity takeoffs or?
Yeah, you do model-based quantity takeoff based on this 3D PDF.
Yeah, not model-based, just 2D quantity takeoffs.
All right. Well, I hope to inspire a little bit more here. So let's do this and see if I can make this work.
I can already tell this is going to be impressive.
It will be once I kind of make it work here. All right. So forgive my lack of knowledge, but under this, I forget what you call this module down here or this window, but they have this markup window, and then they have a 3D. So now, because it is a 3D model, this option is going to be available for you guys, right? So in this case, this 3D model, you can actually see everything in this model have been listed. I got a little bit too excited.
So if you import Revit into here, the 3D option shows up.
When you import a 3D PDF, not Revit, a .rbt file is not readable in Bluebeam. But if you do import, when you create a 3D PDF using this option here on Revit, that's what it does.
I see.
It creates a 3D PDF from this Revit file. And the file type that comes out of that is a PDF file, and this is it. I know it's sort of like when I first learned about this, I'm like, that can't be possible, but it is. And I was very surprised when I found out. I was like, oh man, this is kind of cool, you know. And now you have this 3D model cube tree available, and here you can actually see everything that is listed in that model. So let's say that you want to look at all the doors in this project. You click on this and it'll show you it'll highlight the doors in this. Want to look at the electrical equipment? You can see all the solar panel. I don't know what these are, but they're labeled as electric equipment. If you want to look at the floors, you'll see the floors in this project, right? And what's cool is that a lot of this information is here on Bluebeam. But let's take it a step further, right? What if we want to extract this information to an Excel file and play around more with that data? Oh, you guys are getting excited. I'm getting excited. What I'll do is I'll go out here. If I remember where to get it. We'll go down the 3D model tree. You'll see a summary. Export to CSV file. Save that somewhere. An already baked one for you guys here. And who here have worked? Now it might be boring for some of you. Excel is actually still, used by everybody. You go in any company, no matter what size, everybody has Excel files. If you're estimating, if you're in, control, construction, I mean, Excel is predominantly being used everywhere. What happens is that when you first import that CSV file, and don't mind like the see if I can do this. When you import that CSV file, you want to say open, and then actually let's start over. Let me do that from scratch again. So what I'll do is I'll export this summary, export to CSV file. I'll put it on my desktop. I'll put it as a one. I'm going to open that as a brand new file so you guys can see that scratch. See here, that's a file. Click open. It's actually going to ask me I want to bring in this CSV file into the model or into the Excel. What I'll say is, I know this might be a little too complicated for those that are not familiar with Excel. So I'll just kind of skip to the final part. I'll say next. And these values are actually separated by commas. So I'll say separate columns, the different type of columns and information there. I'll hit next, general, and then finish. So what I'll do is it'll separate the information into different columns. And from here, you can create a table on Excel. So let me just do something real quick. Insert table. All right, now you have a working table. So from here, you can start filtering things like, let's say, hey, I just want to look at windows. Right. And you can filter out things that are just windows. I did that correctly. I'll go back to my working one here. But you can see here that you can start filtering things out based on what you want to see. In this case, if we want to just look at windows, you can filter it out. But this information is what's in the 3D PDF that we got from the Revit file. I go back to a lot of these information, most of these information, if not all, are now exported to the Excel file. So if somebody wants to just look at, I think I crashed Excel. Any questions before I forward? Any sort of any ideas or any sort of general questions or things you guys are thinking about?
So RJ, that 3D file, when you imported it, it created all of that information down in the bottom drawer. And so you're able to export it out into, you said, a CSV file?
Right. As you can open it as an Excel, trying to do here before it crashed. But that Excel file now contains all the information that lives in that 3D model. So you can start looking at different types of categories of that model, right? You can look at ceilings. They'll tell you the square footage of that ceiling. But all the smart information that lives in that model is
RJ? RJ?
Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, you said all of the smart information that lives in
The 3D PDF
it.
is now tabularized or is now being documented through an Excel format.
Right.
I'm going to stop share real quick.
Can
Yeah,
you show
catch it.
again how did you export it?
Export the what? I'm sorry. The
Export
Excel
all
file?
yeah. Export all the columns to an Excel file.
Sure. So, sorry guys, my internet connection is acting up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Not yet.
Not quite yet. It's coming though. I think what happens is that you've got the 3D model going and Bluebeam and whatever, and that loads it down too, and video.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. It's catching up. There you go. So from here in Ninad, what you can do is you can open the CSV file wherever you saved it. In this case, I saved it here. And it's gonna take you through this import wizard. Let me wait. So I'll probably take it offline, or maybe I'll send you guys the instructions. But basically, this window here, text import wizard, tells you how to get the CSV file to look like the table that we want it to look like. In this case, what you'll say is that my data has headers. I'll click next. You'll see that out of the box, this table here doesn't look like anything to us. It's just a mumble, it's just a jumble of information that's organized in some weird pattern, right? So we wanted to extract the information to columns that we're familiar with. In this case, each of these, you see how it says name, color, visible part, they're all separated by commas. So we want to create a column for each of these values that are separated by commas. So I'll say is that these are my delimiters, and you see how it created columns for the different categories. From there, I'll hit finish. your final values, well, there's values for each of these elements. There's actually a lot of repeats here. You'll see that the ID number. The ID number is a unique ID number specific to that element in the 3D model. These are all actually the same kitchen island. If you want to look at ceilings, or let's look at, let me turn this to a table. Insert table. There you go. And then I'm going to filter anything that is just, let's do doors. Those are easy. So I'm going to check everything that has anything doors tagged to it. Actually, let's do this. Just do doors. That, so I'll do. There you go. Now I just filtered anything that has doors. So from here, you can kind of see which level, which door. So all these information is from that model. I'll show you the size. So here, anybody that has some Excel knowledge, they can start doing quick takeoffs based on these ID numbers. So that's one door. It shows you the size. So really, really effective. If you are now familiar with Excel, you can use this to do a takeoff on doors just by extracting all that information from the 3D model. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would get and you would start doing a punch or a 2D takeoff on Bluebeam, right? Is that what you guys are familiar with?
Yes.
So this actually adds a little bit of complexity, but I think it also would help models on your projects, especially if a 3D model is available. Now, this is model-based quantity takeoff. There are softwares out there like, let's say, Assemble, which is the famous one. So I'm going to put that here on the chat. You guys can look this up, but the Assemble is a well-known. Let me make sure that's not. I'll send that after the meeting team.
Okay.
On that one. And that way you can kind of look into Assemble as another option for model-based quantity takeoff. But I think for those that don't have that option, you can always use the 3D PDF if available to do model-based takeoff. Let me put that up on the screen. Any questions? I know it's kind of it got a little bit technical there, but
RJ, if you go back to Bluebeam, because I think Nanad might have had a different question. And if you go, I know for markups for when you export out markups, or if you export out to an XML file or a CSV, there's usually, I always call it, it's like a jack in a box. There's a square.
Markups. Export.
No, I don't see it. There's it's usually down where
this
you
one
have,
right here.
There it is, yes.
Yep.
And so Nanad, and this is in 2D, if we were to do like a takeoff, you can export out a CSV file, an XML, a PDF, or a summary from there. It's like
different options.
Yeah, and I think on our version, RJ, I don't know which version you have, but we have, I think, the latest version.
Probably.
It's a square with the arrow up. I always call it like the jack in a box.
Okay.
It looks, the icon looks a little bit different than that
Okay.
icon. And I wonder if they switched it between the versions. So Nanad, you might see it a little differently on yours.
Yes.
You see it?
Yeah.
I think that was your question earlier.
No, my question was actually how to export all the columns
Oh, okay,
of the
okay,
quantity takeoffs. Yeah, but this information is also good.
yeah.
Yeah, that one there, all I did Nidad was I just went to the columns are all selected, so those are the ones that are default, and then I went to summary, and they only have one option to export a CSV file.
And RJ and I don't know if, yeah, Kia can see me too. So I think, so for example, like we're working with a commercial competition team. And so they do a lot of their takeoffs in Bluebeam. And so what you can do is go down to that columns export and export it out, Keith, and put it into, like, it'll come out in an Excel version, but then you can spruce it up to show your takeoffs if you were, say, doing it in a proposal presentation. Do you follow me too, RJ?
You mean on the 2D or on the 3D?
On the 2D, or well, can you do it on the 2D?
Well, I think what would be a good case scenario is that you guys can do a sample of a 2D, and this is what I've done in the past too, is kind of see how accurate a 3D model-based takeoff is you would do a normal 2D takeoff of, let's say, number of windows and doors, and then maybe take a takeoff of a square footage of a floor, and then you would take a 3D model that's available to you guys, and you would match up your takeoff from a 2D and see what you get from a 3D model takeoff. Like in this case, let's say for this floor here, and I'll just click on it, on your 2D, you measure out, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, but here on the model, it actually it actually tells you the area of that floor, right? It's 100 square meters. So it actually tells you the area already without you going into the model, the 2D and creating your markups there so
I see.
This will also tell your volume as well. So for those that are civil engineering, you'd want to see your cubic yard pours for concrete. So this here save you time, I think, if you have that 3D model, because then you don't have to create, run your calculations, right? And this actually,
right.
But this information always has to be scrutinized, because you have to make sure that there is validity to these models, how they're being modeled. But it is close. It is helpful when you guys are doing takeoffs, in my opinion. That's assuming that a 3D model is available for the team to use. But now that you guys are aware that a 3D model can be exported, a 3D PDF can be exported from Revit, that's like a tool, a weapon that you guys can use as if you're looking at competition here. All you need.
I was gonna say, so RJ, they could, our competition team could ask Hewlett Packard. What's the HP? I'm like, Hewlett Packard. Pencil Phelps. I'm like, Pencil Phelps, say, hey, do you guys have a 3D model? Can we have a copy of it? You can download it in Bluebeam and do all your takeoffs from the 3D model.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if they have a 3D model, and it's easy. There's one thing that you guys should look into. I don't know if you guys use the Bluebeam administrator before. If you type in Bluebeam administrator in your search bar, and let me just log in here. Have you guys ever used this feature before?
I don't think so.
Let me wait until it loads. It's not showing it. Oh,
And we're
coming.
about 7 minutes till 9. So just so you know, RJ.
Sure. Activate this feature on Revit.
You're off of share screen. Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
So you're able to activate this feature, this 3D PDF, after you change the settings under Bluebeam Administrator. You're able to check a box that says Revit 2019 or 21, however it's been installed on your computers. Once you activate that, once you check that box, this feature where you can export a 3D PDF will now be available.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. And I know this is a small project and it might be something that, do you guys have an Autodesk? Just curious, does the school offer Autodesk?
Yeah, we have it like through a cloud. And
Okay.
I don't know, you might use it, Ninad, but we don't, in our construction management program, Autodesk, Revit is Autodesk, right?
Yes.
We have it through a cloud version, but it's doesn't, it's probably an old version.
But definitely something that you guys can use, especially that Bluebeam is able to extract this information from a 3D model. That's definitely something that you guys, I think the team should know at least enough to be dangerous, right?
Yeah. You could create a thing like, say, I don't know, say they asked for a mock-up or something. You could actually create the mock-up in Revit and then import it into Bluebeam and do the little takeoff on it.
Yeah, that's if someone has the knowledge of from Revit, which to me, I don't have that. I'm not skilled that way on Revit. I'm able to export stuff out of Revit than I do create stuff on Revit. So that's what I'm good at, exporting stuff out of Revit.
Yeah. Well, this is really interesting because in all of the bug sessions, we've never seen anything like the 3D markup. So very, very interesting, RJ.
Yeah.
You guys have any?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, RJ.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what I wanted everybody to see, being that
Whoops, you cut out.
As long as you guys have access to a 3D PDF or something that can create 3D PDFs, then you'd be able to explore this feature of doing model-based quantity takeoffs. You can also mark up on 3D PDFs as you can on 2D PDFs.
Yeah, very interesting. We might contact you for our competition teams to spruce it up a little bit.
Sure.
Give us a little training session on how to do it a little more.
Sure.
Okay, you guys have any other questions?
And I can stay in as long as there are questions. So, 3 minutes, we're done 3 minutes, but I'll be more than glad to stay in for anyone that has any questions.
Okay.
I have a question. So I was in a career fair, I was talking to a company called Tiger, and they said that they don't do all the VDC stuff because it can't be printed. So like how we print 2D plans and 2D drawings so that we can submit it to the government for the approval. So do you think like there will be something similar to this in 3D so that we can get the 3D models approved?
Yeah, that's a big challenge for the industry, is that right now contract documents is always going to be, or at least now it's still going to be 2D documents. 3D is still not used to it's still not part of contract document, but I think slowly you can kind of see how how there are model-based quantity takeoffs being done. Eventually, at one point, and that's the goal, is that everybody is going to see the 3D model as the final construction document, and whatever is modeled is what's going to be built. And unfortunately, our industry is not to that point where everybody trusts the 3D model as they should. Unfortunately, we're getting there though.
Yeah, we're still a little behind though, Ninad. You'd think that the AEC industry would be ahead of everything else. And I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see leaps and bounds changes, in technology.
And do you think the Bluebeam 3D PDF could help improving this in some sort of way?
I think now I've seen an article from the Bluebeam blog that I think a lot more authorities having jurisdiction, or AHJs, are accepting reviews being done on Bluebeam sessions. So I think it's getting there. I think the digitization of our construction drawings is a step into the door to accepting the 3D model as the end product. But I think right now is there are more government agencies that are accepting the digital form of review, and Bluebeam is in the forefront of that. They're accepting that as sort of the accepted set of drawings to be permitted. Right now, everybody requires a wet stamp on the drawings, right? You handing it over to the counter and saying these are the permit sets.
Yeah. Okay, you guys, anything else? Did you learn a few new things tonight?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, some really cool stuff. We really appreciate it, RJ.
Sorry for the bad internet connection. I think it kind of hindered from making the meeting go smoothly, but hopefully I can answer any questions offline or through here if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, and we may send you our little dashboard. You can take a look at it when you have a little more time. We can send you a copy of it and you can see how it works and give us some pointers on what you think we should add. Oh, and the nod. Oh, and RJ, what is the best way? Some of the students are interested. What is the best way to get a resume to AECom or to yourself or to somebody that I don't want to say in these big companies it's like a black hole, you know what I mean? What do you recommend?
You send them to me. Career fairs are always I'm sad to say I don't know, I'm aware of if AECom has a big presence in these career fairs, but I think having to know somebody in a company is it's a big step. So yeah, if you guys want to forward a resume to me or even write you a recommendation, that's always a helpful.
That would be great. And do you care if we share your with the group here your email?
I won't. Yeah, I'd be glad to help you guys in any way. So.
And RJ also is on LinkedIn too. So if you guys have LinkedIn profiles, you can connect with him because he's a part of our Fresno State networking community too. So you can kind of see what he's doing. Okay, but if any of you are interested, I'd be happy to connect you with RJ and I can kind of field those resumes so you don't get bombarded there, RJ.
Yeah, I want to suggest is that a lot of we are moving in the direction where digital technology is in the forefront, construction technology. So as much exposure as you guys have to construction technology, whether that be a managing software or P6 and any other thing that you can think of as a way for you to add to your tool belt, I think it would really help you guys a lot in your search and getting a first contact with a recruiter, with a company is having that experience with software.
Yeah, that would be great. And Daniel put RJ Palis's LinkedIn connection there. And the other thing, the last thing I wanted to mention, RJ, is I don't know, we have a couple of industry, well, we have Purring as our industry partner. Sometimes, I don't know if you met Carrie at any
No.
previous sessions, but we're always looking for industry partners. And because you are companies that want to partner with us, and I don't know if you know this, we got like standout bug of the year at XCon this year. So it's really exciting, but we're always looking for other partners. And so if you're ever interested in that, I'd be interested in talking to you about that, because I think because you are in this digital technology, you could really help us improve things and advance our technology, not only with Bluebeam, but Oracle, BIM, those kinds of things. And we could put you in touch with Way too.
Sure. Does that require a name behind my involvement, a company, or is it just an individual effort?
It can be an individual or it can be company, either way. And we can talk about that more, maybe offline sometime.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Okay.
Christy. Yep.
Yeah, I think it would be a great addition to this group and possibly to the department as well. Okay, you guys. Well, thank you so much, RJ. We love having you, just because you give kind of a totally different view of things than our normal GC route. And I think the students really expands their toolbox beyond what we normally see. So we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think technology gives us that option. I mean, there's certain people, I think once we get into a flow of what we routinely what we do daily, we kind of get in a rut of we're not exploring as much. And I think that's what sometimes we kind of get used to it, and we're not being explorers and trying to discover new ways or how to make things efficient. And so I think being in the digital technology side, we have access to all these toys to kind of play around with and make improvement. I'm a process guy. I'm not a big, I don't go to the big projects because it's a big project. I like the process of making things more efficient. And so I could be working on a $1 million project. If it's not efficient, we're not utilizing the technology, then it's not a great project. I could be in this project into it, and it's a $2 billion project, but if we're not utilizing technology the best it could be, then I'm not really proud of that project. So for me, I think involving technology into the process I'm that guy. Yeah, I'm more of a process guy than I am a project guy. So I really like kind of talking about the process rather than the project. If you notice, I didn't talk about the Intuit Dome, but I talked about like things that you can use on a project, and it could be on a $1 million project or a $2 billion project.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, we're definitely process people in this group. So yeah, for sure. But yeah, the light bulb just went on, and I'll have to talk to the leadership team too. But I think I'd like to talk to you more about how we can improve our processes in our group and, in the department too.
Well, hopefully I can provide insight, but I mean, anything I can do to help. I like talking to because I think you guys are the future. Once you guys get out there, you guys are going to drive technology and innovation. So
for sure. Well, thank you, RJ, and thank all of you that stayed. I hope you found it interesting. And if any of you are interested in contacting RJ, just reach out to me by email, and I will get you connected for sure. Okay. Well, everybody have a great evening, and we look forward to having you again, RJ, and I'll be touching base with you real soon.
I'm tapped out of ideas. I think 3D PDS was the last one. So
yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, Christy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.